Yo, what's up, guys? Let's talk about the new refinement stones and the core fragments, where to use it, how to use it, what are the low risks and what are the high risk versions that you can do, because both of them kind of have a low risk version and a high risk version, and the other way around, whatever. So first of all, refinement stones, where do you get them? Of course, the Temple of Chaos, that's the main source. You also do get them in the World Arena shop, so definitely do get those from RTA as well. And then also Siege Battle EXP. And that actually does count for both of them. So let me exactly show you where those positions are. So in the case of RTA, you just have them in the World Arena shop over here. And they cost I think it was 200 per and 400 per, or the other way around. Either how, it's definitely one of those that you want to be doing your RTA to always pick up those, because they're definitely really, really good. In Siege Battle, they are located in the rewards. No, where is this thingy where you normally have this track? Oh, it's in the rewards over here. And then your EXP track, so the one that is actually the next one. Let's see how many you have in this. So you have 25 core fragments sitting in here. One refinement at the 35 mark, then a bunch of rehabs, bunch of this, bunch of that, another 25 at 7. Okay, so you get 2 of these and you get 50 of these. So that is the whole bio that you get for doing your siege. So it definitely does get a little bit more interesting to do a higher level of siege rather than just a farm siege, low level, that kind of stuff. Then on this side, you get a good, this is like 80 over here. And then you also get a good bunch for whatever rank you have over here. Especially if you're going for like Guardian and up ranks. This is where you definitely start to notice where you get a good bit of these things itself. But those are monthly rewards, whereas these are also monthly rewards, because this thing doesn't pop up that often. So that is all of the places where you do get them. Let's see how they work and where to use them. So first of all, on this, does not work on convert. So what does that mean? Well, let's say does not work with gem. So this case, I could throw the refinement on this one right now. If I were to put a gem in this, so I would enchant any of the stats, it no longer works. You can actually make it work again by putting a re-up. So let's say that I would like to do this one. Just a simple example, definitely won't do this one, but let's say I want to do on this one. It's already crazy good, but yep, you get the idea. I would first have to do a re-up and then do it itself. So what are the main things that you want to be aiming for with this in the first place? So let's say aim. You want to be aiming for a slot 2, 4, and 6. And you want to be aiming for all perfect stats. What does all perfect stats mean? Well, I have a good example of one that I've been working on sitting over here. I think it was sitting on the obtained. It was sitting over here, exactly. So what are the perfect stats? I want to have HP percent, speed, defense percent, and attack percent in this one. If you're looking at a slot 6, you're probably looking towards speed, HP, defense, attack, HP. One of those stats is in the main, so that one is excluded, and then you want to put either crit rate or accuracy for those. If we're looking at a slot 2, and slot 2, you would be looking at your attack, HP, defense, and then you probably want to have either crit rate or accuracy in there. What is the low risk? What is the high risk? Well, I would say low risk is a slot 2 with HP, def, attack, and then X/CR. This is the low risk one, because whether it rolls in any of those on the high roll, you're good. Like, let's say that we become like a 22 over here, 22 over there, 6 over there, and 7 over there. We have a crazy good rune. Let's say we do it completely different, where we have a 32 over there and we have like a 16 over there, crazy good rune. We have like this over here, and then we go for like this over there. We're just like saying all max rolls, but whatever. Like this crazy good rune once again. Anything it rolls high into is a crazy good rune. What is the high risk version? Is more a slot 4 / a slot 6, where you go for a speed, HP, def, and you go for attack. And then in the 6 form, you go for 6, let's do it like this, X/CR. Let's say that you have a rune that we're just aiming on the 4 stat right now that we have as the example over here. In this one, the only roll that I would accept is a 24 on a 16 or a 16 over there, and then an 8 on the other one, and an 8 on this one. Like something like along the lines of this, either an 8 or a 16 in either of those, or I just have to go straight up quad roll in speed. Anything else, like if I were to get like a 6 on a 40 on a 8, it's garbage. It's useless because it's a crit rate slot 4. If you were to go for crit damage slot 4, it's a little bit more forgiving. But if you go HP 4, if you go attack 4, you're definitely speed chasing and you want to have at least a triple roll in the speed. And that is the main thing why this is a lot more high risk, high reward kind of style. If you do get that triple roll in speed, it is crazy good because you can place that on exactly the kind of rune that you normally do want. But it is definitely a little bit more difficult to actually get that because then you're looking like in the 4 power or like because that is where you're looking at like 4 to the power of 4, getting it in the right stats and right rolls and that kind of good stuff. So that's definitely something you have to keep in mind. Do you want to upgrade your slot 2s? Which in some cases don't really feel that interesting because these are definitely good to speed chase on. But then again, keep in mind that it is a little bit of a higher risk version of what you should do. Then the big question is, where should you place them or how to get these targets? And targets, well, first, how to get normal re-app. So that is actually the best way to get some of these targets. This target was actually one of those that I did with normal re-apps until I get all 4 of the perfect stats. And then I can go into refinement. So it's definitely one of those things that you can use both of them. First, the normal reappraisal to get the right stats. And then we're going to use this one, which is actually the target I do want to use it on. And we're going to, yeah, exactly like I mentioned. It is relatively good rolled, but it is absolutely useless for me to go attacking this. If this was a slot 2, and we would have had 27 on 14 on 6 crit rate on 5 HP, I would have removed the HP for like a gemmed HP and then get an 11 in there. On a slot 2, these would be perfect fine stats. So on the low risk version, if I did this on a slot 2, it would have been absolutely a good one. But since I did the high risk version, it is absolutely terrible and I have to redo it. However, if you really miss this specific piece, for example, in my case for a Sonya or something, then the high risk might be a high reward the moment you do get it. So how to get the targets, normal re-ups, and then which target to do is mainly up to you. It's like if you notice like, hey, I'm really lacking a slot 6 attack that could be a lot better, a lot more speedy, or I'm really missing like a specific quad or a specific high triple roll, would aim for things where you would be okay with like a triple roll with another roll next to it or something like that. That let's say that you get something along the lines of this, you would be super happy with it. That, or you just go for the slot 2 and then you're hoping mainly, I would say, for like a good crit rate. So you get like a 24 crit rate or 24 accuracy, and then you add in like a 24 over here in the case of accuracy, or you add in a 16 in the case of crit rate, something along those lines. So those are the main targets that you have for this, and I think that's pretty much all there is to it for the refinement stones. It's definitely a very nice way to really specifically target trying to get a perfect stat, perfect rune kind of scenario in there. But then again, what target to do? I would really try to get a good normal re-up into a perfect substat first. So get the perfect substat first, as in this case, the one that I have with this accuracy sitting in there. You want to have like a 7 or an 8 or like a max or a 1-off max in this before you actually start doing the refinement stones. That's my recommendation on that, because you cannot buy any of those. You're not going to get that many. Then moving on to the core fragments, which is for the re-ups. So let me actually space this a little bit up. Re-ups, you actually have 2 options that you could go for. Let's first talk about the low risk, because it's a lot cheaper. And what you can do with this is you're just trying to find a target that is, for example, on high additional by anything. So a high additional that you really would like to use. Let's say a speed. I don't really have a really good example. I think the best example, if this was a HP main, I would use this as an example. So we're looking at a 166 over here. What you can do on this for the low risk is get a high roll and get better other subs. So what you would do with this is, let's say you converted re-up. I would only lock in this, and it would try to get either an HP additional or an attack additional on one of the side rolls. And then I can then convert in the last one as a final stat. So therefore I have a 3-liner rather than a 2-liner. That is definitely something that you could aim for. That is the low risk version. You can also definitely do that on, let's say that you have a good crit damage attack on a, let's say that we're aiming for like a good Sonya rune or something like that. Let's say that this was like straight up a 26 or something. Like I don't really have a good example that is a 26er over there. Do I have? No, it all gets lower and lower. But let's say maybe on first. Do I have anything higher on a first? No, wait, I actually have a really good one. I'm not going to do it, but I have a good example sitting on defense. Give me a defense unit, and then for a crit damage S2. This is, was it that one? No, is it on this one? It is on this one, yeah. So let's say I have this one. Really good on the crit damage over here, but this line is completely useless, and that line is completely useless for this unit, right? So if I were to lock in this line, it's very easy to get good other lines on this, way better than this with like 1 or 2 tries, and then keep it like that, and then gem in like a crit damage first or anything like that. So it's definitely to improve your artifacts that have one good line, but then really bad other lines. That is the low risk version. And then there's a lot of options that you could go for. You could go like a crit damage improver. You could go for like a good accuracy improver. You could go for like a high additional damage, which a lot of people will be focusing on to try to see is like, oh, do I have like something good that I can place like a high additional somewhere and then make it work way from there. It is definitely also interesting that if you have one good line and the other line could still roll into something, you could also have like a good option in that, where that could already roll into like a double good thing or anything along those lines as well. Don't really have a specific example for that, but yeah, those are kind of your options out there. What you could also do, and I would recommend to use the help of SLBGT for that, because in here you can go to your artifact details, and from artifact details, if we select, let's say for water right now, then I have this first sub property, which we can then simply select into quad roll single line, and from here I can see all of my water artifacts that I have with a quad roll in there. So in this case, for example, I have one. Well, none of these are super interesting. The life drain I could, for example, change out. This one is actually pretty good. These are also not that bad, so let's actually check that out for maybe fire, or, well, I actually would prefer that all like a additional from dark, or, well, in this case we have a bomb damage. That's on a good one because it's an HP main. In this case we have a damage on dark, so you definitely have to look about like, okay, what is actually kind of bad? Defense increase on quad, okay. Life drain over here, not that crazy. I do think that I would recommend, if you were to do this on something that can roll in multiple different ways where it's still good. So this is, I think, the best example I have. It's an additional damage by defense on a attack where it is attack. If you're really super hard focusing, it's like, okay, I'm trying to get the highest additional damage by speed from an old quad roll to a new quad roll. So it's actually one of those artifacts I did already select. I think I selected it under the 2. So let's go to an attack 2. Yep, this is the one. I already did one of here on this. But if you want to keep your quad, if I would reappraise right now, this quad will be spread out through everything. It could still be a quad into a quad, but it could be a quad into like a 1-1-1, could be a quad into a 2-2-0-0, could be a quad in a 3-1-0-0, or whatever order it could be. So if you want to do this, it will cost you 100, which is definitely a lot and a lot more expensive than just locking in one, because locking in one is only a 20. So doing this is 5 times more expensive. So therefore is like old quad into new quad. That is definitely an option you could go for, but as mentioned, it's a lot more expensive. I did it once on this one over here, and I got a 53 on this, which is not necessarily the best of rolls. But you have to keep in mind, if you're doing this, you have to be working with all of the things that you can roll on type. And I just counted real quickly. I think it's like 22 or 23 different things that you can roll into. So it is the odds of like a 1 in 22 to get an additional damage by speed in this. So therefore, only do this on artifacts that if you would say it's like, okay, let's say that I roll a really good first attack in there, it will be perfect because we're looking at an attack type on an attack. Perfect if I roll crit damage first. Crit damage 3 would definitely be usable. Crit damage 2 would definitely be usable. If I get one of the recoveries on a high trip, like a high quad, it's going to be bad. The accuracies, maybe an accuracy 3, but it's kind of bad as well. Attack up, kind of fine. Speed up, not that great. Bomb, usable. Crit damage down, bad. This one, bad. This one, kind of bad. This one, really good. This one, super bad. It came from there. This one, really good. This one, usable-ish. This one, kind of bad, but usable-ish. This one, kind of bad. And this one is usable-ish as well. So that's definitely where you want to be looking at, that at least half of them are somewhat on the usable-ish track. where you would say is like, okay, if I just randomly get like a 28 crit damage 3, I'm fine. For sure, I want to get that like 190 additional damage by speed, but that is the thing. If you were to go for a similar one that is on an HP version, on attack type, then a few of them fall off a little bit more. Like, sure, there's some units that could use a crit damage 3 while being on an HP type, but if you want to put that towards a Grogan, it's already like, yeah, not really. It doesn't really fit the vibe. So the crit damage is kind of fall off. Crit damage first might be still really good because there's a lot of bruiser units in RTA that can actually use that. But if you were to go for like a bomb damage on the Shira, maybe so. But if you go for an attack up, it becomes a little bit awkward. So definitely the thing that you have to look at, like, okay, especially if you drop it on the support and you drop it on the defense or anything like that, where do you actually place it and where can you go for it? So in my case, I think that I will be mainly going for the high risk of removing a quad into a quad because I have a lot of those quad into quad options. Whereas I don't have that many options where I would say, oh, I would like to extend my possibility for having the additional damage by speed that I want to have another roll into this. Like, sure, I could say, like, if I have a 170 over here and I have just one substat next to it, then it's definitely a really good target to do that for. But I feel like that I would be just improving the depth by a little bit that I have, but I'm not really improving the specific things that I would like to improve. So I'd rather just go for quad into quad. However, this is actually somewhat of an interesting example where if I were to do this one and I would use this, I could get an additional damage by HP over here, or like a additional damage by attack over here, and then another additional damage over there and whatnot. And it only cost me 1/5 of like trying to get a quad into a quad, which is definitely kind of nice. It could definitely roll into like this kind of artifact could become an artifact that is fairly similar to the one that I have over here, which is like one of those semi-perfect artifacts which you really would like to aim for. I could make an artifact that I just showed on water, pretty much exactly the same as the one I just showed on light, if I were to keep this and I would start re-rolling that, and it would only cost me 20. But then again, I would have to roll the specific of where it adds the specific of this thing with the one roll into an HP or an attack to actually become as strong. So that's also the thing where it comes down to you. It's like, okay, what do you really need? Because, for example, I already have something like this. Do I need another one of this on water? Not really. So if I were to have anything like that similar on dark, I have a lot of dark units with like the Maximilian, the Gianna, the Bella, you name it. I could definitely make something work like that, but then again, I would be working with the best I have is like a 135. If this was like a 150, 160-ish, well, 160 is absolute max, but like 150-ish, I have another roll in there. I would say it's like, maybe it's a something. Right now, I'm like kind of on edge of saying like, yeah, is that actually something that would really improve what I am trying to do? Then again, if I would make this 135 into a 0.6 on this, I add an attack on the next, it could become really good. So I'm just gonna, for science, give it one try, just so we have one of these in here as well. We already have the defense in here, but it's not really the main thing. I would like to have the additional damage on this line as well, where it is the 1-up. So let's see if we would go for this right now. Nope, that's absolutely not better. So yeah, it could also definitely end up like being worse and that kind of stuff. So that is the kind of sense that you could be aiming for. In my case, I think I will still be just aiming on trying to get a quad into a different quad and just make my way work from there, because I definitely have a few quads to work on. Best way that you can do is the moment that you have a specific target, also mark it as re-up target. And I did the same thing for the runes. I do have like a specific one for the new re-up. So re-up 1, re-up 2 is like priority and re-ups kind of stuff. Mostly this is like slot 135s, this is slot 2s, or just like really good slot 135s that I'm lacking things in. And then this one is the specific where I just say it's like, yo, I want to put these refinement stones in, which I think I only did on one just far, because it's specifically this one. I am also working on this one, which I got super recently. Wait, not the one. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one is actually that I'm trying to re-up into right now, that I have like the perfect substats, and then I can go work from there as well, which is something that will be more in the future, because I think for the first part, I will be going for the high risks, because that's the thing, like the higher your rune quality is, the more interesting a high risk is rather than a low risk. The lower your rune quality is, the more interesting it is to go for a low risk, because then you can definitely improve your account with even like a slight bit of like off rolls and that kind of stuff. So that's the main thing on all of these new things. Let me know in the comments if you have different ideas, or you do agree, or you totally don't agree, because of course you're always very welcome to disagree. And guys, thanks a lot for watching. I would like to mention that again. Please subscribe to the channel. I'm still trying to hit that 100k. I did notice it, especially with the love of the Temple of Chaos video. We got a lot of subscribers added to it. Highly appreciate to see all of that good stuff. I will be making a updated version on the Temple of Chaos tomorrow, after the stream that I also do tomorrow, starting around like noon European time, because I got some good improvements for Team 1 and Team 3, and I will see how far I can get, because currently I'm sitting at rank like 50-ish in Europe. Haven't done any attempts after the last stream, but I definitely do think that I can hit like the 7 to 8 mil as well with the current units that I have. So let's actually see if we can make that all the way. But that is going to be for the stuff of tomorrow, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. See y'all later. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.